Musk lights up media after Biden White House makes troubling admission on Twitter monitoring. Now we know that everything you post on social media, the government is watching, is accounted for, and they're using it to control narratives. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button, share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Now, when you hit that alarm bell, press it again, change it from personal to all. That way, you get all notifications from when I'm putting out stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here. And there's also a link to my Instagram where I put out even more news. So check that out as well. All right, let's talk about this news. During the media, during the Monday press briefing, I should say, all eyes were understandably on National Security Council spokesman John Kirby, who was peppered with questions from the press about why the Biden White House didn't take a condemnatory tone in the official statement about the ongoing protests in China over the country's draconian zero COVID policies and the resulting crackdowns on the people by Chinese authority. And y'all already know my take on it. That's because Joe Biden is bought and paid for by China. He's in their hip pocket. They own him. They control him. They got all of his dirt, him and his son, and they literally put money into their pocket, into their coffers. So that's why he never listen closely to with how Biden criticizes China. If he does ever criticize him, it's very light. He never condemns, and even with all the atrocities the CCP does, all the atrocities that China does, he'd never really take a hard line against them. The focus on what Kirby had to say enabled troubling remarks made by Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre in response to a question about Elon Musk's Twitter reign so far to fly under the radar. The exchange occurred when a so-called reporter asked Jean-Pierre a leading question about comments reportedly made by, quote, a researcher at Stanford about the supposed need to ensure that Twitter does not become a vector of misinformation under Musk's ownership. After highlighting Musk's tweet from Saturday, noting that new account signups at Twitter were at all-time highs, the reporter then inquired of Jean-Pierre as to whether or not the Biden White House was, quote, concerned, and if so, what tools were they using to help them keep track of developments. And here's what KJP said, quote, so look, this is something that we're certainly keeping an eye on. And look, we have always been very clear, and that when it comes to social media platforms, it is their responsibility to make sure that when it comes to misinformation, when it comes to the hate that we're seeing, that they take action, that they continue to take action. Again, we're all keeping a close eye on this. We're all monitoring what currently occurring, and we see it with our own eyes of what you all are reporting just for ourselves what's happening on Twitter. I mean, this is nonsense. She goes on to say, but again, social media companies have a responsibility to prevent their platform from being used by any user to incite violence, especially violence directed at individual communities, as we have been seeing. How have we been seeing that? What is she? She gives no examples. No one is inciting violence except for the people on the left, which he already booted them from the platform for saying that they're gonna some of the things that the left has been saying this week that they were gonna do, and the president. She goes on to say, and the president has been very clear on calling that out. He'll continue to do that, and we're going to continue to monitor the situation. Just ridiculousness. And in response, though, Musk took to Twitter Musk took to the Twitter machine and lit up the reporter over seemingly agreeing that Twitter needed the federal government to monitor it. And, quote, why are so many in the media against free speech? This is messed up. And I agree. That's the same question that I alluded to a couple days ago. Why do they hate free speech so much? Why do they attack free speech so much? And I answered it. It's because they can't control the narrative. That is why they hate it so much. That's why the Chinese government is making made Apple censor the protest, made Apple stop people communications because of that. And that's what it is about, controlling the narrative. They want to have more control, like the Chinese government does. Though it's true that it's messed up for a reporter to be asking such a question. What's more messed up was KGP's admission that officials from the Biden administration were, quote, keeping a close eye on and continuing to monitor the situation, as though the free exchange of ideas presented a dire threat to national security. It does pose a threat to leftism. That is why they're monitoring it. But in fairness, I should note that open dialogue does indeed present a threat of sorts, like I just said, but not to the interests of the country. It presents a direct threat to the political future of the Democrat Party, which I just alluded to, of course, which is why Democrat leaders under the Trump administration and now the Biden administration admittedly worked and continue to work hand in hand with big tech in order to keep censoring opposing viewpoints and punishing users for wrongthink, all because they dare to have a different point of view on certain issues. Again, China is the model. You know that what's the guy from the World Economic Forum, Schwab. We know that he says that's the role model. China is the role model, and to Democrats, China is the role model, and they're trying to duplicate that here. And that's exactly what they're doing, and that's why they're so upset with Twitter, because they're not censoring people like they want. Simply put, any communication tool that Democrats can't in some way control presents an existential threat to their future as a party. So therefore, the tool must be targeted for cancellation. Fortunately for free-thinking people, Elon Musk has sent strong signals that he's in it for the long haul, regardless of what happens, which is good news for independent-minded folks and bad news for the usual suspects on the far left in the mainstream media. Again, I think it's a good thing that Musk has opened up Twitter for free speech and letting people have conversations. Some conversations are tough conversations. It might offend some people, but all well, as long as they're not breaking any laws, they're not calling for violence, you should be able to say whatever the heck you feel. But let me know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out democrepublics.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.